The voice note played in a five-star restaurant where silence cost more than sound. A woman's whisper cut through the expensive quiet. Raw, broken, barely holding itself together. He's here. I can hear him outside the door. I can't scream. If you're listening to this, if you hear this, please. The man holding the phone didn't flinch, didn't blink. He simply placed his wine glass down with surgical precision, straightened the cuffs of his Tom Ford suit, and spoke one sentence into his phone. Send the car. Now. Barbara Smith's back was pressed against bathroom tiles, so cold they burned. Her phone was clutched to her chest like a talisman, like the only proof she still existed. Outside the locked door, footsteps paced. Heavy, deliberate. The kind that counted down to an ending she'd seen coming for months. Barbara. Marcus's voice was honey smooth through the wood. That terrified her more than shouting ever could. Baby, you know I didn't mean it. Come out so we can talk. Her lip was split. Her cheekbone throbbed, where his ring had connected. Her hands shook so violently she could barely hold the phone steady enough to open her contacts. She needed Keisha, her best friend. The only person who knew how bad it had gotten. The only person who'd told her to leave 6 months ago when there was still time. Barbara's vision blurred with tears as she scrolled. Everything looked the same. Names bleeding into each other, her thumb smearing blood across the screen from where she'd braced herself against the bathroom counter. She found what had to be Keisha's name and pressed the voice note icon, bringing the phone to her trembling lips. Keisha, it's me. Her whisper cracked. He's here. I can hear him outside the door. I can't scream. If you're listening to this, if you hear this, please. Her voice broke completely. I don't think I'm making it out tonight. I love you. Tell my mama I tried. She hit send and prayed to a god she'd stopped believing in. The door handle rattled. Barbara, I'm being patient. Marcus's voice dropped an octave. Don't test me. Her phone screen lit up. A call, but not from Keisha. Unknown number. Barbara's heart stopped. Wrong number. She'd sent her last words to a stranger. Her finger hovered over the decline button, but something, desperation, instinct, the universe taking pity, made her answer.
She didn't speak. Couldn't.
A man's voice came through.
Calm.
Controlled. Laced with an accent that shaped his words like weapons. Where are you? Not a question. A command. Barbara's breath caught. Who? Your location.
Now.
I don't. Her voice was barely sound. Wrong number. I'm sorry, You sent a voice note. His tone didn't change. Didn't soften. You said you wouldn't make it out alive. I'm asking you once more. Where are you? Outside. Marcus stopped pacing. Barbara's whole body went rigid. She whispered the address like a confession. 2453 Westfield Apartments. Building C, Unit 17. Stay exactly where you are. There was movement on his end. Chairs scraping, voices responding to unspoken orders. Lock yourself in the smallest room. Put something heavy against the door. Do not open it for anyone except me. How will I know it's? You'll know. The line went dead. Barbara stared at her phone, her cracked screen reflecting a face she barely recognized.
Tear-streaked.
Terrified. Holding onto a stranger's certainty like it was the only solid thing left in her tilting world. The door shuttered.
Once. Twice.
Barbara, I'm counting to 3. Her hands found the edge of the bathtub. She wedged herself into the corner where porcelain met tile, trying to make herself smaller, trying to become invisible. 1. Her phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number. 12 minutes. Do not open the door. 12 minutes. She'd be dead in 12 minutes. 2. She pressed her palm over her mouth to trap the sob building in her throat. 12 minutes from a stranger who might not even come. 12 minutes from a man whose voice promised action, not comfort. 12 minutes from someone who hadn't asked if she was okay, hadn't offered sympathy, only certainty. Marcus's voice changed. The honey vanished. What replaced it was the thing Barbara had learned to fear most. 3. Welcome to a place where one wrong number changes everything. Where desperation meets dominance. where the most dangerous rescue is the one that saves you from one cage and offers you another, prettier, more expensive, but a cage nonetheless. This isn't a fairy tale. This is what happens when a woman running out of time collides with a man who controls it. When a voice note meant for a friend reaches a Korean mafia boss who doesn't do mercy, only ownership, and honey, once Sang-young decides you're his to protect, you become his in every way that matters. Tap like before this gets even crazier. Subscribe, you're already deep in this story. Turn on notifications, because what happens next changes everything. The bathroom door exploded inward on the count of 4. Barbara didn't scream. She'd learned months ago that screaming only made it last longer. She pressed herself deeper into the corner, arms wrapped around her knees, phone hidden against her chest where the screen's glow couldn't betray her. Marcus filled the doorway like something that had crawled out of her nightmares and learned to walk upright. His shirt was still tucked in. His tie still perfectly knotted. That was the worst part. How composed he looked when his hands were capable of this. There you are. His smile was gentle, loving. The smile that had convinced her to say yes 4 years ago. Baby, why are you making this so difficult? Barbara's jaw ached where he'd hit her. Her answer came out slurred.
Please.
Just let me go. Let you go. Marcus crouched down, tilting his head like she'd said something adorable. Barbara, you are my wife. Where would you even go? Your mama doesn't want you back. Keisha stopped answering your calls weeks ago. You think anyone out there cares about you the way I do? Her phone buzzed against her ribs.
Once. Twice.
She prayed he couldn't hear it. I take care of you. Marcus reached out, brushing her hair back with the same hand that had slammed her head against the mirror 20 minutes ago. I give you everything. This apartment, your car, those pretty clothes you love. And this is how you thank me? By locking yourself in the bathroom like I'm some kind of monster? Barbara's throat closed around words that wouldn't help her. Come here. Marcus's voice hardened. Not a request. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about your attitude. And then we're going to forget this ever happened. Her phone buzzed again. Persistent. Demanding. Marcus's eyes dropped to her chest, to the glow seeping through her cardigan. His expression changed, shifted into something Barbara had learned to recognize 1 second before impact. Who are you texting? No one. I swear. His hand shot out, fingers closing around her throat. Not squeezing. Not yet. Just holding her in place, while his other hand pried the phone from her grip. Barbara clawed at his wrist, but Marcus was already reading her screen. His face went blank, then dark, then something worse than angry. Unknown number. He looked at her like she'd committed a sin he couldn't name. You called someone? You told someone? I didn't, Barbara gasped. Wrong number. It was an accident. You told a stranger where we live? His grip tightened. Black spots danced across Barbara's vision. You invited some random person to my home? The apartment's front door opened, not a knock. Not a request for entry. The lock simply disengaged with a mechanical click, and the door swung open like the building itself had granted permission. Marcus's head snapped toward the sound. His hand loosened just enough for Barbara to drag in a breath. Footsteps entered the apartment.
Measured.
Unhurried. The kind of steps that didn't need to announce themselves because everything in their path moved aside automatically. Barbara Smith. The voice from the phone.
Calm.
Controlled. Closer than it should be. Marcus released Barbara's throat and stood, positioning himself between her and the bathroom door. Who the hell are you? This is my home. Get out before Before you what? Sang-young appeared in the doorway. Barbara had imagined different versions of her mysterious caller during those 12 minutes of waiting. Someone large and brutal. Someone with visible weapons and obvious danger. What she hadn't expected was this. A man in a suit that probably cost more than her car, hands loose at his sides, expressions so neutral it erased the possibility of negotiation. He looked at Marcus the way someone might look at a stain on expensive carpeting. Annoying. Removable. Beneath consideration. This is between me and my wife, Marcus said, puffing his chest. You need to leave. Now. Sang-young's gaze moved to Barbara. She was still on the floor, hand pressed to her throat, tears cutting tracks through the blood on her face. Something flickered in his expression. Not sympathy. Something colder. "Stand up," he told her. Barbara's legs didn't want to work. She used the bathtub's edge to pull herself upright, swaying when the room tilted. "Come here." She looked at Marcus. Then at the stranger who'd walked into her nightmare like he owned it. Her feet made the choice her mind couldn't, carrying her forward, past Marcus, toward the man whose voice had promised certainty. "Don't you dare." Marcus grabbed her arm. He didn't finish the sentence. Sang-young moved faster than Barbara's mind could process. One moment Marcus was pulling her back. The next, he was on the floor, arm twisted behind him at an angle that made Barbara's stomach turn. Sang-young held him there with one hand, applying pressure that turned Marcus's shout into a whimper. "You broke her arm," Sang-young said conversationally. "Would you like me to return the favor?" "I didn't." "She's lying. You don't understand." Sang-young applied more pressure. Something in Marcus's shoulder popped. His scream turned primal. "Stop." Barbara's voice surprised her. "Please, just let him go. Let's just leave." Sang-young looked up at her. His eyes were dark, unreadable, assessing her like he was calculating her worth down to the decimal. Then he released Marcus, who scrambled backward, cradling his arm. "If you follow her," Sang-young said, straightening his cuffs, "if you look for her, if you so much as think her name too loudly, I will know. And what I did just now will feel like mercy compared to what comes next. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded, face white with pain and something Barbara had never seen on him before, fear. Sang-young held out his hand to Barbara. "We're leaving." She stared at his palm.
Clean.
Steady. Offering escape that felt less like salvation and more like stepping from one fire into another. But the apartment was suffocating. Marcus was still here. And this stranger had crossed a city to answer a voice note that wasn't meant for him. Barbara took his hand. His fingers closed around hers with the same certainty his voice had carried. Absolute, immovable, final. They left Marcus bleeding on the bathroom floor. The car waiting outside wasn't a car.
It was a statement.
Black, sleek, windows tinted so dark Barbara couldn't see inside. A man in a similar suit to Sang-young's held the door open, eyes forward, expression blank. "Where are we going?" Barbara asked as Sang-young guided her into the back seat. "Somewhere safe." That wasn't an answer. But Barbara was too exhausted to push. She sank into leather that probably cost more than everything she owned and watched her apartment building disappear through the rear window. Sang-young sat beside her, close enough that his cologne, something expensive and understated, cut through the blood and fear coating her senses. He typed rapidly on his phone, messages flowing in a language Barbara didn't recognize. Korean, maybe. The characters looked sharp, efficient. "Your arm," he said without looking up. "Is it broken?" Barbara touched her wrist gingerly. "I don't think so. Just bruised. We'll have a doctor confirm." "I can't afford." "I didn't ask what you could afford." His tone didn't change. Still neutral. Still controlled. "I'm telling you what will happen." Barbara fell silent. She studied him in the passing streetlights, the sharp line of his jaw, the precise way his hair was styled, the single silver ring on his right hand. Everything about him screamed control.
Power.
The kind of man who said jump and people asked how high while they were already airborne. "Why did you come?" The question escaped before Barbara could stop it. Sang-young finally looked at her. Really looked at her. His eyes moved over her split lip, her swelling cheek, the finger-shaped bruises already darkening on her throat. "You asked for help. I asked the wrong person."
No.
Something that might have been amusement ghosted across his features. "You asked exactly the right person.
You just didn't know it yet."
The car pulled up to a building that made Barbara's apartment complex look like a cardboard box. All glass and steel and money, the kind of place that had doormen and security cameras and people who'd call the police on her for existing in the lobby. "I can't go in there," Barbara said. You look like someone who survived." Sang-young stepped out and offered his hand again. "Come." The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a city Barbara barely recognized from this height. The furniture was minimal, expensive, probably uncomfortable. Art that Barbara didn't understand hung on walls painted in shades of gray that had different names she'd never learned. A woman appeared from one of the hallways, older, professional, carrying a medical bag. She gestured Barbara toward the sofa without introduction. "Dr. Chen will examine you," Sang-young said. "I have calls to make." He disappeared into another room, phone already at his ear, voice dropping into that language Barbara couldn't decipher. Dr. Chen worked in silence, fingers gentle as she catalogued Barbara's injuries. She cleaned the split lip, checked Barbara's pupils, pressed carefully around her ribs. When she touched Barbara's wrist, Barbara flinched. "Sprained, not broken," Dr. Chen said. Her English carried a British accent. "You're lucky." Barbara almost laughed. Lucky. She'd been beaten by her husband, sent a voice note to a stranger, and ended up in a penthouse that looked like it belonged to someone who trafficked in more than good intentions. If this was luck, she'd hate to see cursed. Dr. Chen wrapped her wrist, gave her painkillers Barbara didn't recognize, and left without another word. Barbara sat alone in the expensive silence, watching the city breathe below her. She should leave. Should run. Should do literally anything except stay in the home of a man she didn't know who'd broken her husband's arm like it was nothing. But where would she go? Marcus was right about one thing. She had nowhere left. Sang-young returned an hour later. He'd removed his jacket, loosened his tie. He looked more human this way. Less like a weapon and more like a man who'd had a long day. "You should eat," he said. "I'm not hungry." "I didn't ask if you were hungry." He moved to the kitchen, massive, chrome, probably never used, and returned with a plate of food that looked professionally prepared.
Eat.
Barbara took the plate because arguing seemed pointless. The food was good. Too good. The kind of good that reminded her she hadn't eaten anything except fear for the past 6 hours. Sang-young sat across from her, watching. Not in a way that felt predatory. More like he was studying a problem he intended to solve. "What's your full name?" he asked. "Barbara Smith."
Age.
29. "Why are you?" "Family?" Barbara set down her fork. "Why does it matter?" "Because I need to know who will come looking for you. Who Marcus might contact. Who poses a risk." "A risk to what?"
To you.
Sang-young leaned forward slightly. "You sent me a voice note saying you wouldn't survive the night. That makes you my responsibility now." "I didn't ask to be your responsibility."
No.
"You asked for help. I'm providing it." His expression didn't change. "The terms are non-negotiable." Barbara's stomach twisted. "What terms?" "You stay here. Under my protection. You don't leave without my knowledge. You don't contact anyone from your previous life. You don't make decisions that compromise your safety." He paused. "Or mine. You want me to be your prisoner. I want you to be alive." Sang-young's voice finally carried something other than neutrality, an edge that cut through the space between them. "Your husband has connections you don't know about. Friends in places that matter. If you walk out of here, if you try to disappear on your own, he will find you. And next time, there won't be a voice note. There won't be a wrong number. There will just be a funeral your mother won't attend." Barbara's hands shook. "How do you know about my mother?" Sang-young smiled. It wasn't comforting. "Barbara, I know everything about you. Your lease. Your job at the dental office. The friend who stopped answering your calls because Marcus convinced her you were drama. The savings account he cleaned out last month." He stood, buttoning his cuffs with practiced precision. "I knew all of this before I walked into your apartment. The voice note just gave me permission to act." The room tilted. "You've been watching me? Protecting you." He corrected. "There's a difference." "Since when?" "Since the day you walked into my restaurant 6 months ago, sat at table 12, and smiled at a waiter who reminded you of your brother." Sang-young moved toward the hallway, pausing at the threshold. "You ordered the salmon. You cried into your wine when you thought no one was looking. And I decided then that if you ever needed help, I would provide it." Barbara couldn't breathe. 6 months. He'd been in her life for 6 months, and she'd never known. "The bedroom is down the hall." Second door, on your right. You'll find clothes in your size, toiletries, anything you need. Sang Young's voice softened into something that might have been meant as comfort. Get some rest, Barbara. Tomorrow we discuss what happens next. He left her alone with the city lights and a truth she couldn't process. She wasn't saved. She was claimed. And the most terrifying part was the small, broken piece of her that felt relief. Barbara woke to sunlight she didn't recognize and sheets that cost more than her monthly rent used to. For 3 seconds, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. Marcus, the voice note, the stranger who'd been watching her for 6 months. She sat up, wincing at the pain in her ribs. The bedroom was larger than her old apartment's entire living space. Everything was white and gray and expensive, like sleeping inside a magazine spread that didn't want fingerprints. Her phone sat on the nightstand.
Dead.
She'd forgotten to charge it in the chaos of last night. Barbara found the bathroom. Marble, glass, a shower with more settings than she knew what to do with, and caught her reflection. The bruises had deepened overnight. Purple and yellow painting her cheekbone, her jaw, her throat. Evidence of a marriage she'd stayed in too long. Clothes waited in the closet like Sang Young had said. Her exact size. Jeans that fit perfectly, soft sweaters in colors she actually liked, underwear that made her skin crawl because how did he know her size and everything? She dressed in someone else's choices and ventured into the penthouse. Sang Young sat at the dining table, laptop open, coffee steaming beside him. He looked up when she entered, eyes cataloging her appearance with the same efficiency he seemed to apply to everything. You slept 4 hours, he said. Not a question. A statement that meant he'd been monitoring her somehow. Do you have cameras in the bedroom? Barbara asked.
No.
I respect privacy when it matters. He gestured to the chair across from him.
Sit.
We need to talk. Barbara remained standing. I want to go home. You don't have a home. The apartment was in Marcus's name. He's already changed the locks. The words hit like a fist. My things are being retrieved as we speak. Clothes, documents, anything of value. The rest isn't worth saving. Sang Young closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. Marcus filed a police report this morning. Says you attacked him. Says you're mentally unstable. Says he's concerned for your safety. Barbara's laugh came out broken. Of course he did. He also reached out to associates. People who owe him favors. People who know how to find people who don't want to be found. Sang Young's expression remained neutral, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. He's not accepting that you left. Then I'll run. I'll leave the city. Change my name. You'll die. Sang Young stood, moving around the table with that predatory grace she'd noticed last night. Marcus has connections to people who make him look like a saint. Men who traffic in things worse than violence. You think you can outrun that? Barbara's chest tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying your husband made enemies of my enemies. I'm saying his business partners are people I've been watching for months. I'm saying when I pulled you out of that apartment, I didn't just save you. I declared war. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. And I don't lose wars, Barbara. I didn't ask you to. You asked me to save your life. This is what that looks like. His voice dropped, softer, but somehow more absolute. Marcus is coming for you.
But he won't get to you.
Because I'm going to end him first. Fear and something else. Something that felt dangerously like hope, twisted in Barbara's stomach.
How?
By giving him exactly what he wants. The plan was simple, brutal, terrifying in its precision. Sang Young explained it over coffee Barbara couldn't taste. Marcus wanted her back. Wanted to prove he still had power over her. Wanted to punish her for embarrassing him, for running, for daring to think she deserved better. So they'd give him the opportunity. In public. In front of witnesses. In front of people who mattered. There's a gala tomorrow night, Sang Young said. Charity event. Marcus will be there, his firm is sponsoring. He won't expect you to show. He thinks you're hiding. Because I am hiding.
No.
You're preparing. Sang Young slid a tablet across the table. Security footage filled the screen. Marcus at a bar, drunk, bragging to friends about how he'd teach that bitch a lesson. Marcus outside the police station, smiling for cameras, playing the concerned husband. Marcus meeting with men Barbara didn't recognize in parking garages and expensive restaurants. He's building a narrative, Sang-young continued. Unstable wife. Concerned husband. If you disappear permanently, no one will ask questions. If you turn up dead, he has 12 witnesses who'll say you were suicidal. Barbara's hands shook. So, what do? You stop running. You walk into that gala on my arm. You let him see that you're not broken. And when he makes his move, Sang-young's smile was razor-sharp. You let me finish what I started. This is insane. This is survival. He closed the tablet. Marcus doesn't respond to mercy. He doesn't understand boundaries. The only language he speaks is power. So we show him power. And then we erase him from your life permanently. Barbara wanted to argue. Wanted to say there had to be another way. But she tried every other way for 2 years. Reasoning, pleading, hiding, apologizing for crimes she didn't commit. Nothing worked. Nothing changed. Maybe Sang-young was right. Maybe the only way out was through. Okay, she whispered. What do I need to do? Sang-young's expression shifted into something that might have been approval. You need to remember who you were before Marcus convinced you that you were nothing.
Can you do that?
Barbara thought about the woman she'd been at 25. The one who'd gotten her dental hygienist certification on her own. The one who'd laughed without permission and worn colors brighter than beige. The one who'd existed before Marcus taught her that existing was a privilege he could revoke. I can try. Good. Sang-young stood, offering his hand. Then let's get to work. The next 36 hours blurred together. Sang-young's people, and there were people, plural, an entire infrastructure Barbara hadn't known existed, moved with military efficiency. A stylist arrived with dresses. Not just any dresses. The kind that cost more than Barbara used to make in 6 months. The kind that made a statement before you opened your mouth. Red, the stylist said, holding up a dress that looked like danger and confidence had a baby. It says you're not hiding. You're not afraid. You're not his anymore. Barbara stared at her reflection in the floor-length mirror. The woman looking back wasn't the one who'd cowered in a bathroom 2 nights ago. This woman's bruises were covered with makeup that looked like armor. This woman's hair was styled into something elegant and deliberate. This woman wore a dress that demanded attention instead of begging for invisibility. I don't recognize myself, Barbara said quietly. Sang-young appeared behind her in the mirror, dressed in a tuxedo that probably cost more than a car. Good. That means Marcus won't either. Not until it's too late. The gala was everything Barbara expected and nothing she was prepared for. Crystal chandeliers. Champagne that tasted like money. People who smiled with their mouths but calculated with their eyes. Sang-young kept her close. His hand at the small of her back, possessive and protective. People noticed. Whispered. Wondered who this woman was that had captured the attention of a man who rarely brought anyone into his orbit. Barbara felt their stares like physical touches. But she kept her chin up, kept her breathing steady, kept moving forward because stopping meant thinking and thinking meant panic. He's here, Sang-young murmured. East corner. Don't look yet. Barbara counted to 10 before turning her head casually, as if surveying the room. And there he was. Marcus. In a suit she'd helped him pick out 6 months ago. Talking to some colleague. Laughing like he hadn't almost killed her 72 hours ago. He looked normal.
Charming.
Successful. Everything he'd convinced the world he was while teaching Barbara what monsters looked like in tailored clothing. Then he saw her. The recognition hit his face in stages. Confusion. Disbelief. Rage buried under a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He excused himself from his conversation and moved toward them like a shark that had just smelled blood. Barbara. His voice was warm.
Public.
Full of concern that would fool anyone who hadn't heard it precede violence. Thank God. I've been so worried. Where have you been? Barbara's throat closed. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to apologize, to make herself smaller. Sang-young's hand pressed gently against her back. A reminder. An anchor. I've been somewhere safe, Barbara said. Her voice came out stronger than she expected. Somewhere you can't hurt me. Marcus's smile tightened. Hurt you? Sweetheart, you attacked me. I have a police report. Witnesses. I've been trying to get you help. Witnesses who weren't in the bathroom when you broke my arm. Barbara's words came faster now, fed by 2 years of silence. Witnesses who didn't see you slam my head into the mirror. Witnesses who believe your lies because you're so good at telling them. People were watching now. Conversations dying. Attention shifting to the drama unfolding near the champagne fountain. Marcus's mask slipped. Just for a second. Just long enough for Barbara to see the thing underneath. We should discuss this privately.
No.
The word felt like power. Like reclaiming something she'd lost. I'm done discussing anything with you privately. I'm done pretending. I'm done protecting your reputation while you destroy my life. You're making a scene? Marcus reached for her arm. Sang-young's hand intercepted.
Fast.
Decisive. His grip on Marcus's wrist looked casual, but his voice cut through the space between them like a blade. Touch her again, and I'll break every bone in your hand.
Slowly.
In front of everyone here. Marcus tried to pull free.
Couldn't.
Fear flashed across his face. Genuine, unfiltered fear. Who the hell are you? I'm the person she sent that voice note to. Sang-young's smile was colder than anything Barbara had ever seen. I'm the person who walked into your apartment and left you bleeding on the bathroom floor. I'm the person who's been documenting every threat you've made, every illegal business deal you've conducted, every connection you have to people who make their money from other people's suffering. The room had gone completely silent. And I'm the person, Sang-young continued, who just sent all of that documentation to every media outlet in the city, along with medical photographs of what you did to your wife, along with testimony from 12 other women you've abused over the past 10 years. Marcus's face went white. You can't. I already did. Sang-young released his wrist. Check your phone. I think you'll find your evening is about to get much worse. Marcus fumbled for his phone. Barbara watched him read whatever messages were flooding in. Watched his world collapse in real time. Watched him realize that the power he'd wielded so carelessly had just been taken away by someone who understood power on a completely different level. You destroyed me, Marcus whispered.
No.
Barbara stepped forward. Close enough to see the fear in his eyes. Close enough to remember every time she'd been this close and terrified. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped letting you destroy me too. Security appeared. Not hotel security.
Police.
Real ones. With handcuffs and badges and expressions that said they knew exactly who Marcus was and what he'd done. Marcus Thompson? The lead officer's voice carried across the silent ballroom. You're under arrest for assault, domestic violence, and about 17 other charges I don't have time to list right now. Marcus tried to run. Got 3 steps before 2 officers had him on the ground, reading him his rights while the city's elite watched a monster get dragged out of their carefully curated world. Barbara stood frozen, watching the man who'd ruled her life for 2 years get reduced to a criminal in handcuffs. She waited to feel relief.
Victory.
Something that matched the magnitude of the moment. Instead, she just felt tired. Sang-young's hand found hers. It's over. Is it? Barbara looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd saved her, claimed her, orchestrated her husband's destruction with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. What happens now? Now you choose. Choose what? Sang-young led her away from the staring crowd, through glass doors that opened onto a balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cold, clean, sharp enough to clear her head. You can leave, he said quietly. I'll set you up anywhere you want. New city. New name. New life. You'll be safe. Protected from a distance. I won't interfere. Barbara's heart stuttered. Or you stay. He turned to face her, and for the first time since she'd met him, his carefully controlled expression cracked. Showed something raw underneath. You stay with me. In my world. Under my protection. By my side. Not as someone I'm obligated to save, but as someone I choose. And who chooses me? Barbara should have been terrified. Should have seen this for what it was, trading one controlling man for another. But Sang-young had never lied to her. Never pretended to be something he wasn't. Never promised freedom he couldn't guarantee. He'd promised safety,
Power. Partnership.
a throne instead of a cage. And he delivered. What happens if I say yes? Barbara asked. Then you stop being Barbara Smith, the woman who survived. And you become Barbara Young, the woman who conquered. His voice was steady.
Certain.
You learn my world. You build power beside me instead of beneath someone else's boot. You become dangerous enough that no one will ever hurt you again. That's not freedom. No, Sang-young agreed. It's something better. It's control. Barbara looked out at the city. Thought about Marcus in handcuffs. Thought about 2 years of apologizing for existing. Thought about a voice note sent to the wrong number that turned out to be exactly the right number all along. She'd spent so long surviving. Maybe it was time to start living. Okay, she said. Then stronger. Yes, I choose this. I choose you. Sang-young's smile was small but genuine. He pulled a small box from his pocket, black velvet, expensive, planned. Inside was a ring. Not an engagement ring. Something else. A band of platinum with a single black diamond that caught the light like a threat. This is a promise, he said, sliding it onto her right hand. You're mine to protect. I'm yours to trust. We build an empire together. And anyone who tries to hurt you will learn what happens when they touch something that belongs to me. Barbara looked at the ring. At the man who'd orchestrated her rescue and her transformation. At the city spread out below them like a game board they could finally play together. She wasn't saved. She wasn't free. But she was alive. And she was powerful. And for the first time in 2 years, she was choosing her own path, even if that path led into darkness. What do we do first? She asked. Sang-young's hand closed around hers, the ring cool against her skin. We go home. We plan. And we make sure that no one in this city ever doubts who you are or what you're capable of. Barbara smiled. Not the small, apologetic smile Marcus had demanded, but something sharp, something dangerous, something that matched the woman she was becoming. Then let's go home, she said. And for the first time in years, home didn't sound like a prison. It sounded like power.